Gente, boa tarde novamente. Então, é com grande alegria, né, que damos continuidade às apresentações do nosso simpósio. Agora nós contamos com a presença do professor Miguel, que é da Universidade Central da Venezuela. Nós vamos pôr, né, o vídeo já pré-gravado e, em seguida da apresentação do vídeo, a gente abre para as perguntas. Então, muito obrigada, professor Miguel, de antemão, de estar aqui apresentando para a gente.
Obrigado. Muchas gracias. To thank the organization. Good afternoon. My name is Miguel Villegas, and I would like to take this opportunity to thank the organizing committee for this splendid conference. I'm very excited to be here and be able to share my work with all of you here in Brazil. And I'm Miguel Villegas Diaz, and I am with the Department of Applied Physics and Universidad Central de Venezuela. Although I have some time outside my country. I would like to talk today, the title of my talk is The Basset Force and the Persistences of Hydrodynamic Memory. And sorry, before I forgot, I would like to take this opportunity to thank my dear friend Tommy Felixson, who was the person who told me about this symposium. I was not aware of the symposium. He told me last year, and I was able to prepare this talk and this one, my article, and I'm very happy to be here and share with all of you my work. And what I mean, I'm going to talk about the movement of a spherical particle in a viscous fluid. This is a old problem. This is not new, because Stokes was the first to tackle this problem. He studied not only a spherical particle but also a cylindrical body, solid body, and also a plane surface. He was able to compute the force, the hydrodynamic force, the force of fluid, exerts on the solid particle. And the famous Stokes formula for the force is very well known in hydrodynamics. And then later, Boussinesq, 1885, 1888, Oseen, extended the work of Stokes, considering the case in which the particle is moving with a non-uniform velocity, non-steady velocity, and also included the effect of gravity force. This is interestingly, you see that all these works are for the case of spherical particle. The non-spherical particle was considered almost, well, more than 100 years later by Lawrence and Reynolds, who studied the case of a slightly non-spherical particle moving with a non-uniform velocity in a viscous fluid. Lawrence and Reynolds in 1988 considered the spheroidal body. Lavalenti and Brady considered the arbitrary shape, and also there are many papers related to the case of bubbles and drops, but also most of them are for the case in which the particles are moving with a constant velocity or non-uniform velocity, but independent of time. In this case, today I will talk about the case in which the time is a very important parameter in the problem. What is important? Well, the importance of this problem is that recently there has been an increasing interest of the memory, the hydrodynamic memory uh, in the upon the driven transfer of micro and nanoparticles. Here I present two reference, Sailing and Present, Physical Review Research 2019, and going to compose Physical Review 2020. This is just to reference. The importance is that these problems are important in biophysics, application of nanotechnology, biomedicine. For example, application dielectrophoresis of proteins and magnetic particle images. So this is a very interesting problem with an enormous amount of applications. And the Basset force, for the case of a spherical particle, I will consider is the problem is the particle falling in a fluid and a viscous fluid with the presence of gravity with non-uniform velocity. Velocity is dependent on time. The force, the hydrodynamic force, is Ft. This force given by this expression. The first, the nu is a cinematic viscosity of fluid. R is the capital R, sorry, is the radius of the particle, and U represents the velocity of the particle. U in this case depends on time. The first term here is the Stokes force, so the steady Stokes force. The second term is the mass term, and the third is the Basset force. Look that this in this equation, for the first principle, we see that using Navier-Stokes equation, the expression for the force, the expression for the force can be written, can be interpreted as a derivative, fractional derivative of but over the half, 1 divided by 2. So the basic history force is a retarded force because you see when the particle is moving in the fluid, it produces vorticity, and this vorticity acts on the particle. There is a same interaction, and this interaction occurs with a time delay. So there is this term depends is a retarded force, and is responsible for the hydrodynamic memory. So let's consider now the generalized Basset problem. Basset problem generalized because instead of using this expression, the expression for the Basset force as a derivative, semi-derivative, or fraction semi-derivative of the velocity, we will suppose, following Mainardi hypothesis, that the fractional derivative is order alpha, with alpha between 0 and 1. Will be any number between 0 and 1. Okay? This equation 1, is a Basset-Boussinesq-Oseen equation for the case in which the density of the fluid, rho f, is equal to the density of the particle, rho p. Gamma is a function gamma, and the fractional derivative is interpreted as Caputo fractional derivative. So we see this is an equation which I want to try to find a solution using initial condition. Sorry. Interestingly, Seller Basset in their paper, because they were considering the case of Brownian motion, this any problem, they apply a Markovian embedding technique, a numerical technique. In our case, we will apply just the Laplace transform. Applying Laplace transform to equation 1, this equation, we get this, where LU is the Laplace transform of the velocity, and capital Fs is the Laplace transform of the external force. This is external force. So we get equation 3, and if following Mainardi and coworkers, and defining these two functions, NS and MS, equation 3 can be written as this one, this equation 5. Taking the inverse of transform equation 5, we get this. Remember, I should mention that the equation, the Basset-Boussinesq-Oseen equation, this is written in dimensionless form, right? So, equation our result for the velocity is dimensionless. You see that the velocity of the particle contains two terms. It's the addition to terms, the external force plus a coupling force, where this coupling force, second term, is given by this expression, where ms contains the effect of the Basset force. And if the Fs, capital F, is the Laplace transform of the external force. So equation 10 represents the coupling between the Basset force and the time-dependent force. This is the main result. Of course, in the paper, I studied also the case. We can do the same with the same method. We can apply the same method for the case in which the particles and the fluid have different density. So there is the buoyancy force. I think very important. Okay, let me put this here. Okay, and now using 6 and 7, we will consider two cases. The first case I consider was the case which studied Sailor and Perse in 2019. In this case, the external force is a driven impulse force, 1 minus the Heaviside function. And then substituting this external force into 7 and using convolution, we get this. Yep. Which can be written as 9. You see? After, if you consider the time larger than t0, the first two terms cancel each other. So the velocity of the particle will be given by the subtraction of the third term to the fourth term. And so this subtraction is different from 0 for a very long time. And this was the result found numerically by we can show by using some experiment that is considered exactly the result obtained by Sailor and Perse. Using this as a condition and this one, and t minus to larger than t, we found in memory that this chart represent the memory effect, which the memory effect, which persists indefinitely. Another case which was not considered by Reynolds is a case in which the driven force, external force, is a sinusoidal force or amplitude B, a frequency omega. In this case, using again 6 and 7, we get this version 10 line convolution. We get the velocity, the dimensional velocity. In the case, the dimensional velocity, we see that the velocity of the particle has the same frequency as the external force, but the amplitude of the particle changes with time. Okay, right? So the amplitude of particle acceleration increases as time progresses. Here I show you the first two plots, by the first plot for the case and on the third case for the force. FA applied force is a state function. Yeah, state in blue, and red is a coupling. You see, yeah, the coupling remains non-zero for a very, very long time. The plot of the driven effect pulse with delta t equal 1 together with the coupling. Yeah. The second plot represents two double impulse force, right? Yeah, you see that the coupling is frequency. Now we can conclude. The conclusion of this work is that memory effects do not just extend the transient relaxation, but to the steady state, but persist indefinitely under a significant parameter gradient. Thus, the Basset-Boussinesq-Oseen equation can be necessary regardless of observation time scale. In other words, the Basset force is not, it should be included always, because if we don't include the Basset force, there will be possibly no. There will be wrong prediction. We will obtain a wrong prediction. And this is by the reference. I should mention that I published recently in November in the European Physical Journal the case for a non-spherical particle in memory field. And well, thank you very much for your kind attention. I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Professor Miguel, muito obrigada pela sua apresentação. E nós também gostaríamos de agradecer que você está tão participativo no evento, comentando em todas as apresentações. Então, muito obrigada. Nós temos algumas perguntas e alguns comentários, e você pode responder da forma que você se sentir mais à vontade, tentar responder em português, ou em inglês, ou em espanhol, como você se sentir mais à vontade, tá bom? Então, vamos começar com uma pergunta. Primeiro, temos aqui um elogio do professor José. Bom trabalho.
Muy amable, muy amable. Muchas gracias. Muchísimas gracias.
Depois do professor Edmundo, que ele parabeniza, né, pela apresentação e pela participação no simpósio. E, em particular, ele agradece por se esforçar em comentar também em português.
Estoy aprendiendo.
Depois nós temos uma pergunta do professor José, que é, no modelo, a derivada fracionária é parcial? Porque a derivada fracionária somente uma parte temporal e não nas duas. Algum motivo? Aí ele também escreveu em inglês a mesma pergunta.
Básicamente, yo estoy estudiando el problema unidimensional. Claro, uno puede estudiar el problema en 3 dimensiones y ya tiene que considerar derivadas parciales. Es verdad, es verdad. De hecho, actualmente estamos trabajando, tengo un compañero en Argentina y estamos trabajando el caso con 2 partículas, y porque este es un problema sofisticado y complejo. No son nada, no son sencillos, no es por darme sino que en verdad es difícil. Pero uno lo que hace es que estudia solamente el problema en una dimensión horizontal o vertical, y después extiende, va sumándole. Pero es verdad, tiene razón el profesor, es verdad. Hay varias cosas. Cuando, por ejemplo, ayer, yo estoy muy, por cierto, antes de continuar, quiero agradecer profundamente, ¿verdad? Porque estos días han sido extraordinarios para mí. Me he gustado todas las presentaciones. Cada una viene con algo mucho mejor. O sea, aunque todas son de un nivel enorme, por supuesto. El profesor Ortigueira, el profesor Magín, extraordinario también. El profesor Garrap, el profesor Mainardi. Yo empecé a estudiar esto con el profesor Mainardi, en sus libros. He disfrutado plenamente, totalmente este simposio, y estoy muy agradecido con todos ustedes, de verdad, profundamente agradecido. Y quisiera compartirles también que esto es parte de un trabajo que nosotros estamos haciendo. Yo estoy trabajando también con el doctor Saylor de la Universidad de Arizona, y con otro compañero de la Universidad del Uruguay, con otros problemas relacionados a esta área. Fíjate que en las ecuaciones aparece, yo he encontrado que, por ejemplo, la ecuación de la derivada de Paravankar aparece cuando la partícula, en lugar de ser esférica, es elipsoidal. Pero uno parte de primer principio de la ecuación de Navier-Stokes. Es fascinante esto. Bueno, muchas gracias.
Temos mais perguntas.
Muy amable, gracias.
Ana, aqui é um elogio. Peraí, deixa eu mostrar a pergunta primeiro, que eu cliquei errado. É uma pergunta do professor Félix, que pergunta se existe conservação de energia ou momento.
No, porque aquí está disipación. Se considera la ecuación de Navier-Stokes. Sí, no. Muy buena pregunta. Aclarar esse ponto foi muito importante.
Temos também alguns elogios à apresentação. Vou apresentar alguns. Temos do José Eduardo, que ele parabeniza pela apresentação.
Muchas gracias.
Novamente, do Edmundo, que ele parabeniza novamente e agradece.
Muchas gracias. Muy amable.
Do Tony, que ele parabeniza, né, pelo trabalho.
Muchas gracias, Tony.
E fala que é sempre muito bom, né, conversar com você sobre o cálculo.
Más tarde hablamos, Tommy y yo, porque todas las tardes estamos conversando acerca de lo que vemos en los highlights del día.
Mas é sempre muito bom mesmo, né, conversar sobre o que a gente gosta, né?
Sim.
Deixa eu ver se tem mais alguma... Eu acho que tem mais alguns elogios, mas por questão do tempo da nossa programação, nós vamos ficando por aqui. Professor Miguel, muito obrigada pela sua disponibilidade em apresentar para a gente o seu trabalho, que foi muito enriquecedor para a gente. Muito obrigado pela sua participação no evento, e muito obrigada. E agora nós continuamos, né, a apresentação do nosso simpósio, que agora vai ser a apresentação número 20. Então, muito obrigada mesmo, professor.
Um abraço. Graças.